Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aziz Juan Toko, and my student number is A320190 and 286. I'm from class HESP, and now we're gonna do some assignment from Mishara, which I'm gonna do it and summarizing previous studies on ESP niche analysis. So the first studies is the title is Needs Analysis ASP course design, a case study of the studies of nutrition, food, and agri-food technologies. And the author of this study is Lamia El Mekta, published in December 2022. The research types of this research is descriptive qualitative method of data collection. So this studies use qualitative method on this research, and the respondent is 12 doctoral students who had received the target ESP course in Master 1, and 10 subjects teachers who teach different subjects materials in relation to the students' fields. The techniques of collecting data is two questionnaire were administered, one for a doctoral student and one for a subjects teacher. This was primary method that used in these studies. The techniques of analyzing data in these studies is the document presents the analysis of questionnaire results through descriptive statistics, primarily percentage and bar or pie charts, followed by a discussion of interpretation of the findings. The study used the descriptive qualitative method of collecting data. And the aim or problem statement or research question is first I'm going to explain the aim of the studies. The aim of the study is to analyze the needs of master of students for ESP course from the perspective of doctoral students and subjects teacher in ENATAA. The ultimate goal is to ameliorate the current ASP course and increase the student motivation. And the research question is first, what are the doctoral students' attitude towards the previous ESP course? The second question, what are the problems encountered when dealing with English? Third question is, how can the course be ameliorated in satisfying master for students' needs in ENINATAA from the perspective of doctoral students and subjective teachers? Uh, the material language problems encountered by students are text comprehension, technical vocabulary, writing, and speaking skills. Students have a weak proficiency in the productive skills or speaking and writing, and both student and the teachers view writing and speaking as the most important skills need in research career. A majority of both students, about 83.3%, and the teachers, 66.7%, agree that the time allocated for the course is insufficient. Insufficient. Students have a positive attitudes towards the targets of ESP, and the student recommend intensifying practice of productive skills, increasing times allocation, and focusing on pronunciation and scientific articles. And the questionnaires or interview question for these studies, the interviews were not used, and these studies use a questionnaire such as a doctoral students questionnaire. There are 18 items in 6 sections, covering past and current English experience, problem encounter, attitude towards course, language proficiency, and suggestion. Subject teacher questionnaire, there are 13 items in three sections, covering integration of English, belief about the student's needs, and suggestion for amelioration. And then we're gonna discuss about the next studies. The title is a needs analysis of ESP in textile engineering professional in Ethiopian context. This studies is wrote by Medinat Peleshu and published in the year of 2020. The research types are mixed methods. The study is described as a mainly qualitative but also use quantitative methods to handle the questionnaire data. Respondents or participant are 156 workers from six randomly selected textile companies. Participants include general managers, human resource managers, and section leaders. And for these studies, there are eight representative of general manager and section leaders participated participated in the interview. And the technique of collective data are questionnaires, 156 properly filled and returned. And this study uses a semi-structured interview. Techniques of analyzing data. The collected data was categorized, depleted, and analyzed using a percentage description. And the aims or research question for these studies are first, the aim is to investigate the English language needs of textile industry in Ethiopia. The research question are the first is what English language abilities are required in the textile industry of communication purpose. The second question was what English language skills are frequently used in the textile field. The results. English is significantly important in the textile industry, and the most frequent activities performed in English are email communication, uh, and that's 92% always, followed by interaction with suppliers, customers, making phone calls, and report writing. The results indicate that speaking, reading, and writing skills are necessary for the professional. The interview results specifically highlighted speaking and writing skills as the most important of 75% in the interviewers for tasks like discussion with customers, emails, and reports. Now the questionnaires or interview question. This research use a questionnaire for collecting the data, and the Appendix A asks the participant to rate the frequency, such the frequency of the words as such as always, frequently, sometimes, rarely, never, of 13 tasks, including making phone calls, email communication, report writing, and reading contracts. It also asks them to list important English skills. And the interview for Appendix B asks questions such as for what specific purpose do you use English in your company? Which skills or which is skill or skills listening, speaking, reading is or the use word of is or are necessary, and what specific English language skills that SCAPs have you observed from the workers who you university graduates. And I'll move to the second studies. And the title is Need Analysis of Approach to ESP Design in Iranian Context, right by Muhammad Ali Akbari. And the second writer is Mahnas Bokhayeri, that published in 2014. And the research types of these studies was mixed studies between qualitative and quantitative. The study collection data is using quantitative questionnaires and also conduct qualitative interviews with instruction. However, the results section of the paper entirely on the quantitative analysis. The respondents or participation in these studies were 49 senior architecture students from Ilam University, and 72 architecture graduates from the different universities in Iran. And the technique of collecting data in this studies was to separate modified research-made questionnaire were used, one for studies and one for graduates. And also for the interview question, there are an interview was conducted an, with the instructor. The techniques of analyzing data of these studies was first is reliability. Ground patch alpha was used to verify the internal consistency reliability of the questionnaires. The second is quantitative analysis, that the data from the questionnaires was analyzed using SPSS statistic 2020. And the statistical test is the last the technique of for analyzing data from the studies, which in the person C-squares test was used to analyze the questionnaire items and determine the most important needs. And the aims for problem statement and research question from these studies was the first is the aim is to investigate the needs and views of architecture student and graduate regarding the ESP course and evaluate the effectiveness of those courses. And the problem statement for these studies was despite completing ESP courses, architecture students and graduate in Iran appear not to possess enough knowledge and skill to deal with the target language. This suggests a mismatch between the learner's needs and what the syllabus offer. The research question was what are the specific English language needs of Iran architecture student or graduate? And the second was what language skills do they need to develop? Uh, for the results of these studies, the most important skills identified by both groups was reading comprehension, followed by writing, speaking, and listening. Next, the standard needs were focus for more on academic success, such as reading technicals, texts on the internet, and writing long papers. While graduates' needs were focused on professional tasks, such as reading articles in professional journals and writing articles for journals. Participant reported dissatisfaction with the course of textbooks, topics, and lengths. More than 60% of graduates felt that they had very little improvement in their language skills after taking the ESP course. And the study concluded that the course did not fully meet the participants' needs and that revisions to the program are necessary. And the questionnaire or interview question, the full questionnaire were not provided in this article. They were modified version of a questionnaire from Mas and Tahiririan 2008. They use like a scale and multiple choice question. They cover topics such as needs in the four macro skills such as listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and general study skills and attitudes towards the syllabus contents and course lengths. Example of the item topic from table 2 include listening to the lecturers, speaking at the seminars, meeting and presentations, reading specialized textbooks, and writing articles from journals. The interview question are the text mentioned an interview was conducted, but it does not list or describe in the question. Now, the next studies was the principles and practice of ESP course design, a case study of a university science and technology. The author is Xing Lin Li, and these studies was published in 2016. And the type of this method used to wrote these studies was quantitative methods. The study used survey method and analyzed data via SPSS software package. The respondent of these studies, there are 256 total participants of 3 year students. The demographic was 62 males and 195 females. The major was 105 English majors and 152 non-English majors. The proficiency varying proficiency levels ranging from elementary to advanced in English language. The techniques of collecting data. The survey method using learners' needs analysis questionnaire. The formal questionnaire consisted of 35 point likes scale items. The questionnaire was adopted from Berlin 2000 time and translated into Chinese to prevent misunderstanding. The question of techniques of collecting data and the techniques of analyzing data. The data was using the SPSS software package for Windows. Statistical analysis included the descriptive statistic, t-test, and ANOVA, and the general linear model was employed to examine significant difference on language skills needs by proficiency levels. The SCAF test was used as a post hoc test. The aim or problem statement and the research question of the studies was to investigate the learner's perspective of perceived needs on the ESP course at the University of Technology. And the research question was, what English language skills do the student perceive that they will need most in their future work and etc. And the result, overall perception of need, the extent of ESP needs perception held by the student was very high. About 80% of students though ESP courses are useful and helpful for their future job. And the most needed skill was listening skill, perceived to be the most important and needed skills. I mean 4.27, followed by writing skill, mean 4.05. And between males and females, they held similar viewpoints on the importance of each English skills. The proficient difference student at higher English proficiency level held a higher interest in English learning than those a lower level. The job expectation, more than half of the students did not expect to obtain English related jobs after graduation. And the course interest, the student felt most interested in ESP instruction, about 78%, and consider it more useful for their future English needs compared to EAP, about 50.6%, and general English, about 75.8%. The questionnaire or the interview of these studies was the study used a 6 point like chart scales questionnaire, and it considered of demographic part and questionnaire item for the perceived language skills needs. The questionnaire items focus on the categories such as interest in learning English, such as belief that learning English is important to get a job, interest in taking ASP or working related English, and the importance of four English skills such as reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Okay, that's for the studies, and now we're gonna move to the next study, which the title is Design an NSP course for engineers in Samsung Engineer Work Inside in Kimimon. The author of these studies was Bill Bill Baker Lange, and the second writer is Benios Radia. This studies was published in 2016, and the research type of this studies are mixed method between quantitative and qualitative. The respondent and participants are engineers working in the Samsung company in the Timimon projects, and the questionnaire was distributed to 40 engineers for different fields who were working the TFD or at the TFD or Timimon Field Development Project. The technique of collecting data is action research using different tools, and a questionnaire was designed and used to gather information from the engineers. Technique of analyzing the data. The study use quantitative and qualitative methods, which is mixed. And for the quantitative data from the questionnaires, the results were collected in a table format, and percentage for each selection or a response was calculated. And this quantitative study include frequencies, percentage, tables, charts, and diagram. And the aim for this study itself is that the work aims at designing a course targeted to the engineers in the Samsung engineering work site in Timimon. And the basis of the study is analyzing the needs of the target groups or the engineers and the evaluation of a course. And the main problem notes that lack of etiquette and appropriate ESP course and lack of English language teachers in general on ESP. Teachers in particular were problem encountered by both teachers and engineers. And the result of the study is almost all of the participants or and the engineers needs an ESP course. The predominant needs are skills, speaking and listening, first followed by reading, writing, and translation as fifth skills. And the vocabulary needs of engineers also need a vocabulary related to the specific knowledge to deal with their jobs and technical terms in their area of specifications, specially, specialization, specialization considered most important about 75%. And the English proficiency, more than half of the engineers, about 62.5%, have an average level in English. And the importance of English itself in these studies was the majority of the participant, about 75% believe English is important for their work. And most use skills are the majority is with about 62.5% opted for speaking as the English skills to be used at work. And the weakness, the biggest weakness in the key job in these key jobs was the job application and resume writing about 75% in speaking. The main weakness was I can speak with grammatical correctness about 65% of the worker cannot speak with correct grammatical uh, in their jobs. And the preferred material most all the participant about 90% prefer material used on the jobs such as work forms, charts, samples, or a relevant course assignment. And the preferred learning activity for them is the same percentage about 40% percentage pair work and small groups work. They also prefer learning through language games and debates or role plays. The questionnaire of the study use a composed of 13 close-ended questions, such as what is your job title at the company. The answer was civil engineer, electrical engineer, mechanic engineer, and others. So there are four responses. And that's it for these studies. And now we're gonna move to the next studies. And the title is This Analysis on English Language Used by Hotel Staffs in Bandung. And the author for these studies is Alfian Azar Yamin. and this studies was published in July 2021. The research type of these studies is quantitative studies, and the respondents or the participants and the participants were 27 hotel staff and that located in Bandung, and the position were hotel managers, front desk officer, sales representatives, and some of the receptionists. And the technical of collecting data that used in these studies was questionnaire using Google Form distributed via email and WhatsApp. And next about the technical of analyzing the data of the study. The document mentions that the study used quantitative research design, which implies statistical analysis of the questionnaires, such as percentage shown in the results stages. And the aim of the study is to discover needs of English language skills in a specific field. Focus on analyzing and the English language needs of hotel staffs in Bandung, and the specific objective is to find in the difficulty of hotel staff encounter when using English language and the specific needs to develop their English language skills. And the results of the studies was the importance of English. About 80% participant rated English language skills as a very important. And the most needed skills that the participant really needed is the speaking skills. In the most important by the staff, they really need such as skills like speaking skills, followed by listening and writing, and then the last is reading. And the most needed language function is giving information about the hotel's facilities and service about 84.6% of the participants. And next in the answering question and handling complaint from the customer is 73.1% of participation are having trouble or really needed the skills of answering question and handling complaint. And the main problem encountered was feeling nervous when using English to communicate with the guests, fear of making mistakes. They are shy to making mistakes. They are not brave enough because they are afraid of making mistakes. And the next is lack of vocabulary. The main problem that the participant encountered was the lack of vocabulary knowledge and the difficulty to listen and understand understand some of accent and pronunciation from the guest. So the participants are having a difficulties to understand some accents or pronunciation from the guest. And the next point was the suggestion for the curriculum development from ESP. The enhance of the English lesson with more detailed activities in hotel conversation, handling complaint, and explaining hotel facilities, service, and enrich vocabulary, especially on hotel terms. And the questionnaire or interview question that used in this studies was the questionnaire consisted of several questions how such as how important the English language skills in the hotels industry and the problems that occur when the use of English there. And the result section indicate a question related rating and the most important English language user scale 1 to 5 and the needed of English language skills such as speaking, listening, vocabulary, and grammar and the most needed language function, such as giving information on hotel facilities and service, and handling complaint from customers. And now we move to the next studies. And, the next studies is titled ESP course design for Indonesian hotel industry and need analysis. And this the author of these studies is Yuyut Tri Kuntoro, and these studies was published in August 2021. The research type of this study was qualitative methods, and the respondent is three staff members of the front desk departments, a hotel manager who takes responsibility as a human capital. And the research was conducted in Kapal Garden Hotel, Indonesia. And the technique of collecting data for this study was an interview or a structural interview and participant observation. And the techniques of analyzing data is thematic analysis. For these studies, the aims is to identify the staff English needs of the front desk department by identifying labors, lab, labors are employed likes when wants and necessities. And the second is to seek an expected ESP course. And the result of this study was were a primary job skill needed, speaking and listening primary skills for front desk jobs and lacks and difficulty, such as primarily lacks speaking skills. They also have a difficulty responding to question with limited vocabulary and difficulty of understanding various foreign language accents such as British, Indian, and Arabic, and etc. And the questionnaire or interview question asks to define needs. This research is using an interview question, for example, is for defining English language needs, likes, wants, or necessities. Employees' difficulties in the English language production, work competence. Well, that must be mastered for in the front desk staff. And for the defining the expected ESP course, such as meeting duration, and for ESP course. Now we're gonna move to the next studies that titles this analysis of English for specific purpose at food beverage Emersia Hotels Bandar Lampung. And there are three authors for these studies. And the first author is Fajar Riantika. The second is Robi Julia Hendra. I mean, for author in these studies. The first is Fajar Riantika. The second is Robi Julia Indra, Teresa Abruli, and Ayu Kartika Puspa. And the studies was published in October of 2020 of volume 3, number 2. The research type of these studies was qualitative, using an exploratory research design, and the study uses this study uses qualitative data collecting method such as interview to gain insight and understanding on underlying reason of and motivation. And the respondent for these uh, studies there are five participants, which is senior staffs of the food and beverage service department at Emersia Hotels and Resort Bandar Lampung. And the characteristic of the participation is three males and two females, and had more experience handling foreigner guests, age range between 22 and 35 years old, and had a diploma from hospitality college or minimum graduated from high schools. And they had been working in the hotel restaurants for about a minimum of 2 years, and the sampling is a non-probability samplings or non-random sampling was used in this uh, method. The techniques of collecting data, which is the interview. Uh, the interview the interview question were posed in Bahasa Indonesia to make it easier for interviewers to answer and explain. And the techniques of analyzing data of these studies is the data from the interview transcription were grouped based on the research question, and the data were analyzed to determine the workplace situation and which answer belong to certain English skills, such as writing, reading, speaking, and listening. And the aims or problem statement in this study was the objective was to reveal the language needs for hotel staff in developing English skills based on needs analysis. The study aimed to investigate the English language communication needs of the food and beverage staff at Emersia Hotels and Resort Bandar Lampung by investigating the language used in the workplace. And the result is the majorities of the result are speaking and listening are the most needed language skills by the participation. Speaking is the most frequently used or oral communication of the communicate with guests, and the main language skills need to survive the requirements of their workplace. And the lacks of problem is such listening is difficulties in understanding guests to the various accent and dialect, which can have a massive impact on communication and cause misunderstanding. And once of the on the once or occasion is the participant needs to learn specific English language, especially in speaking and listening to support their jobs. The English training currently held in the hotel was not enough, and there are participants felt it need more time and focus on speaking and listening. One suggestion was proposed to prepare our language training and program to improve English language skills. The questionnaire or the question there are and these studies use interviews questions such as the instrument was it is consists of 11 questions, and the interview were open ended, and the interviewers use semi-structural techniques, and the question were bahasa Indonesia. Next we're gonna move to the our uh, next studies, and this study was by the participant of the study were 50 marketing students enrolled in a vocational schools in Indonesia, especially from SMKN 1 Bone. The data collection of this method was using a questionnaire distributed via Google Form during class hours, and the students were given 60 minutes to complete and submit their response online. The data analysis technique is collected using descriptive statistics to identify trends and patterns in the students' preference and needs. And this process includes data collection, data reduction, data display, and conclusion drawing. And the aim of this study is uh, to comprehensive conduct a comprehensive needs analysis of English for specific purpose for marketing students at SMKN 1 Pune, utilizing strategy analyzing to identify their specific needs and preference. The research sought to address the following question, such as what are the preferred learn materials, methods, and activities of marketing students at SMK 1 Pune, and what are a primary motivation of the students in learning English? What specific soft skills, speaking, reading, writing, and listening, are the considered most important by these students? And the result was the preferred material learning of the student was student prioritized materialized annual product management, such as 52%, and marketing strategy, such as 52% also, and preferred learning methods such as the most favorite the most favorite method was a group work which contained 80%, followed by individual works contain 72% of the student. And the preferred learning activities of students prefer practical and informative activities such as reading and find information. And the primary motivation and the highest motivation was the desire of communicate fluently, 90%, followed by preparation of our professional career, 52%, and increase of employment opportunities by 50%. Importance of sub skills among the four sub skills, reading was considered the most crucial, average rating of 4.20, and followed by speaking 4.9, and listening 4.06, and writings 3.97. The question structure used in these studies is one set. The first set is six items to identify the preference for learning materials, method, and activities across the four language skills. The second set is one item focusing on students' primary motivation of learning English. The third set is one item assessing the importance of specific sub skills using a one to five rating scales. Very important, and in the author, I'm sorry, for the last, I mean, for the next studies, the title is analysis in English for specific purpose of foreign nursing studies, wrote by Rosmiati, and the second author is Nurlia. And this studies was published in 2022. And the research types is quantitative research. The response of participant survey was distributed for categories of respondents. The first is students of nursing study programs at Polytechnic Sandi Kursa. Uh, there are 36 nurse students from one class from the second semester, and ESP English teachers majoring in the nursing study program at Polytechnic Sandi Karsa. There are two English lecturers, and the lecturers of nursing English course, preferably overseas alumni lecturers with experience interacting with native second language English speakers. Stakeholders, managements, consultants, and employee of large-scale consulting companies, multinationals, as the target of student language learning at work. The techniques of collecting data are a questionnaire, and the technique of analyzing data was analyzed to determine the level of students in English skills or abilities, levels, importance of the English skills, such as listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, and vocabulary, and the levels of importance of sub-skills and learning topics or materials. The findings are presented using percentage, such as student ability levels, and average importance levels, such as sub-skills, and the aims are and the problem statements are to enable teachers or syllabus designer of English course to obtain detailed and clear information about learning materials needed by nursing students, so students can receive relevant English learning material for their academic fields and jobs. The underlying problem or justification: learning English in the nursing studying program has not considered and deeply gone through the needs of analysis process. The material provides is often not in according with the field of science taught to nursing students. The results, the student proficiency, students generally rated their English proficiency in listening, speaking, writing, grammar, and vocabulary in moderate level or basic English. The reading proficiency students only had a good level or pre-intermediate in reading skills, about 52%, 52.77% of the students. And the overall materials, all 16 topic offered by the researchers were the respondent to respondent respondent to very positively with the same high rank by all the categories respondent for inclusion as the learning material. The questionnaire identification. The instrument used was questionnaire developed by Hutchinson and Waters, 1987, and simplified to be more comprehensive by Dudley Evans and St. John's in 1982. And now from the last study, titled A Need Analysis of ESP for Physical Education Student in Indonesia. The author is Budi Eko Prananto and the second author is Suprayogi. And the studies was published in April on 2020. The research types is that used in the studies was mixed methods, and the result or and the participation, there are included a total of 50 students and 10 lecturers. The participants were from the physical education study programs at two university. The first university is the University of Tech Technocrat Indonesia. There are 25 students and 5 lecturers. And the University of Lampung, there are 25 students and 5 lecturers also. The technique of collecting data, there are quantitative data collected using an online questionnaire, and they are collected through interview session with the lecturers and some student and respondents. The technique of analyzing data is quantitative data is in the answer questionnaire were download and analyze using simple statistic procedure, and the qualitative data and the oral or from interview was used to support to confirm the finding from the quantitative analysis. The aim of of this research is to construct the ideal English material for a physical education student university. And the research questions are: how do physical education student prefers their English abilities, and what are the topics needs in ESP for a physical education students? The results of the student from the question, the overall most students consider their English skills to be weak. And the second topics, the most highly desired topic were teaching instruction about 100% agreement from the students and lecturers, and English support journalism about 90% agreement for both of this group. The questionnaire of an interview based on the provided documents. This research use both interview and questionnaires. The first are the questionnaires distributed online was used the primary tools to gather quantitative data from the 50 student participant. And the interview were used to gather qualitative data from 10 lecturers from the student respondents to gain more insight and confirm the quantitative data. And the study explicit states is used triangulation research design with combined both quantitative, which is the questionnaire, and the qualitative, which is the interview methods. And I think that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.